Hello and welcome everybody to today's Training Industry Leader Talk, Sales Enablement Strategies for Long-Term Success, sponsored by Adobe, CGS Immersive, Force Management, InfoPro Learning, and Integrity Solutions. I'm Liz Spate, the Events Marketing Specialist here at Training Industry, and I'm thrilled to have you with us here today. Before we get started though, I would like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items to help you interact with our speakers and get the most out of today's program. So if you haven't done so already, pull up your chat window and let us know where you're joining us from today. Feel free to use this chat window to interact with our speaker with any comments or questions, and we will be addressing those questions at the end of the session, but please do not hesitate to plug them throughout. And at your time here with us, you will notice a short evaluation survey will pop open in another tab in your browser. We would appreciate your thoughts on today's event. And all of our sessions are being recorded and archived on trainingindustry.com, and you will receive a follow-up email from us with the link to the on-demand session for you to share with your team. If this is your first Training Industry event, we would love to welcome you. We exist to make connections among learning and development professionals. We offer tons of resources to support your role in L&D, like live events like today's Leader Talk, as well as through articles on our website, our magazine, conferences, research reports, our podcast, and our membership. We would also love to hear about what you've learned from today's session on social media, so please follow us on your favorite platforms for us to continue the conversation. And without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our first speaker of the day. Brett joined as a CEO of Integrity Solutions in September of 2024. Brett is a proven leader at executive level with an accomplished record as a changed agent. Brett's career history is steeped in both sales and more than 25 years of experience in learning and development industry, most recently serving as a CEO of ACI Learning. Under his leadership, the company successfully acquired and integrated 5 acquisitions while growing organically in high double-digit percentages, both top and bottom line. And with that, Brett, take it away.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate the kind introduction, and thank you to everyone for the opportunity to speak with you today regarding a subject about which, quite candidly, I am very passionate. With roughly 40 years in revenue-generating positions, about 30 of which in the training and development and ed tech sector, selling is core to who I am and what I do. And I'm excited to share with you some thoughts about how you, as training and development professionals, can leverage my experience over time, Integrity Solutions experience over time, to drive your business. And I'd start by saying there are 3 things that I have learned over time in the sales space. One, it's not if, it's when the market is going to change and impact your company and its sales operations in some form or another. 2, you're either moving forward or you're going backward. There is no one moment in time that corrects everything for the duration. Rather, maintaining growth begins with implementing a process that can sustain your business. And 3, a properly and appropriately aligned go-to-market engine can sustain a company in absolutely any market that you find yourself facing. With that said, let's talk a little bit about the agenda items that we're going to cover over the next few minutes of time here. We're going to talk a little bit about the state of the market, what we're hearing in the market, the role of training and development in any market, but most specifically to challenged markets, how to evaluate a sales training program if you're looking to implement or build one. What are some low risk, high reward strategies that you can put in place to increase productivity in your sales organization? And how do you make that sales process a holistic system to your entire company? With that said, I'm curious, we've heard from a lot of our clients and prospects that 2025 took off like a rocket ship. January, February, and March, in some cases, record-breaking revenue numbers. And in April, as the market began to change and there was some sense of insecurity and the unknown, revenue began to slow. Longer or slower deal cycles, performance gaps, price sensitivity on the part of clients, internal struggle with focus and morale, even staffing issues seem to begin for a number of our clients and prospects in April. I'm curious if your organization or you experienced anything coming out of the first quarter, And if you'd be so kind as to share that with others in the chat, I'm sure everyone would have some interest in your thoughts there. So let's jump in. And I want to be very clear. The market is always in a state. And that state is often subject to rapid change, and change that, quite frankly, is entirely out of your control. And I'll date myself a bit more here by sharing with you a few things that I have seen since I have been in revenue generating positions since my first position. In 1987, you might recall, if you're old enough or a bit of a history buff, Black Monday, the day the market crashed, which impacted markets for months to year and potentially beyond. Also high level, 2021 through 2011, what is referred to as the lost decade. Some of you might remember the Great Recession, the dot-com bubble burst, the 2008 real estate crisis, all of which impacted and were impacted by global markets. 2020 to 2022, I suspect we all have a keen memory of when we experienced a global pandemic. And in 2022, coming out of that, the invasion of Ukraine, inflation, and continued shortages on products and goods that impacted markets as well. Most recently, 2025, possible recession, the impact of tariffs and the unknown around that, as well as any number of global conflicts. I share this because I think it's important that we understand always impact to a market that can be either positive or detrimental to our organizations. I refer to the current state of the market as the market of the unknown. What we are hearing from customers and clients is they're just not sure what's going to happen. The markets aren't quite sure what's going to happen. So we're hearing our prospects and clients saying customers are pulling back on spending. They're reducing budgets because they're concerned about revenue drops, even to the point of staffing cuts and layoffs. And what some folks are seeing in the sales world is clients are actually ghosting. Prospects are actually ghosting them instead of engaging with them in a discussion. And where they are engaging, the deal cycles are most certainly longer. So it's a wild market for sales folks if they're not working with relationships that they've built over time, and one in which there's a significant amount of trust. So what is the role of training and development in these types of markets? And I want to be very clear on the front end of this conversation. Training and development is not a profit center. Rather, I view training and development as a profit driver. I recall vividly in the past, one of my chief human resource officers came to me and said, "Hey, Brett, now that training and development is a part of human resources, I think we should be considered a profit center as we go forward and be given a number." My personal opinion is that's not an accurate nor an appropriate way to regard training and development. Rather, the poet W.B. Yeats, I think, said it exceedingly well. Education, and by virtue of education, training and development, is not the filling of a pot, but rather the lighting of a fire. This has resonated with me as I've been in training and development roles and worked in this industry over a significant amount of time. Training and development impacts every aspect of an organization, and most specifically and measurably with regard to the training of the sales team and the process in which they work, which, quite candidly, folks, is a great opportunity for you in your role as training and development professionals to impact your organization in a very profound way. A well-thought go-to-market strategy and training program will enable your company to weather any storm and to excel in good markets at any point in time. So let's dig a little deeper into the role of training and development. There are a lot of options out there for sales training, but you need a process that performs in any market that you can live with consistently. So there are some buzzwords that you should be aware of as you evaluate sales training. Rather than sales training that focuses on closing a deal, sales training that solves a problem enables long-term growth. Rather than sales training that focuses on getting a sale or a contract, you should be focused on sales training that wins a client. Sales training that talks about manipulating a client, spinning the narrative, challenging a client will not be as productive as sales training that is based in consulting with a client, understanding their needs and helping them address them. Sales training that teaches a salesperson to talk, and as salespeople, we love to hear our own voice, but it will not be as successful as sales training that teaches your salespeople to listen, to hear the client, to understand their needs, and make them feel like you are addressing those needs in a way that will allow them to be successful. Also, sales training that encourages a salesperson to leave with a check will never be as successful as sales training that teaches a salesperson to leave with a relationship, particularly as you're looking at sales training for the long haul. You also need a methodology that sticks. And we talk a lot about skill set and mindset, helping your sales team understand these are the skills, these are the things that I need to be able to do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, but also trains them on why what they're doing brings value to their client, to their company, to their society, and how it helps them grow and develop as a professional. So skill set and mindset should be two things you're listening for as you review any type of a sales training program. Sales training should also be applicable daily. And what I mean by that is it should become a part of the salesperson's DNA. It shouldn't be something they have to do or something they need to go and do. It should be a part very naturally of what they're already doing. In conjunction with that, it should always align with company values, team values, and the values of your sales team. If you are encouraging your sales team to do something that is outside of the balance of what they believe to be right, just, and operating with integrity, it won't be adopted, it won't stick, and you'll see high turnover. And third, sales training should be time proven. I think over the years, we have learned nobody likes to be sold. Certainly being pressured is a major turnoff to clients. And a deal does not have the same value as a relationship, though the two often go hand in hand. You also, being in training and development, know that every day there's a new mantra out there. There's a new catchphrase, a new model, idea, or methodology around sales training. The reality of it is sales training has been consistent for the 50 years that we've been in the space, and it's about partnering with a client to build a solution that meets their needs that they can implement and leverage in any market over any period of time. A consistent winner in training and development is a process and a program that you can stick to that makes all parties comfortable and yields the desired results for all involved. Interesting, in this challenging market where many are being ghosted, we're actually proactively hearing from our clients saying, hey, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're feeling. What are your thoughts on this? Because we're not a vendor, we are a partner to them. And I would encourage you to strongly consider, is your sales team a partner or are you a vendor by virtue of the way that you're selling into your companies? Companies that have invested in meaningful training, learning and development programs will weather any storm, will excel in great markets. Those who haven't invested shouldn't wait to do so. Regardless of the market that we're in, it's critical that we invest in our sales teams so that we can be successful now and in the years to come. So again, in evaluating a sales training program, there are a few things you want to consider. Sales training won't be adopted if it doesn't align with your culture and values. That's a period stop for us, and I believe for most companies. It's difficult to have an adversarial methodology between sales training and company values. Sales training has to integrate seamlessly into the company culture and into the salesperson's day. And people immediately think, wow, that's all about the technology. It's not. It's about the technology. Yes, bad UI, UX will never resonate with a salesperson, whether it's your CRM or your LMS. But rather, you also have to consider, does it fit into their day naturally? As they go through their normal course of events, are you asking them to do something unusual or out of character in what would be considered a traditional sales process? But also how you have them documenting those KPIs and how you're measuring the way that they're engaging with the process should be seamless as well. So it's important that the process integrate into the sales rep's day. It also has to resonate with the reps. We as salespeople don't like being told what to do. We do like being told, hey, let me help you be more successful in your role. Let me develop you as a professional. Let's do this together. So ensure that your sales training is an extension of the personality of your sales team so that it becomes something that really resonates with them and becomes germane to what they do on a daily basis. Also, focus on the long game. The flavor of the week in sales training just doesn't persist. You need something that you know in any market will stand. With any salesperson you bring in is adaptable, and with any system you're using, it can be applied. We have a healthcare client, Fortune 100, who has been with us for over 30 years. And they've stayed with us very specifically because the process fits their model, aligns with their core values and culture, and has worked for them in literally any global market. If you think about your company and your clients, for those that have stayed with you for over 3 decades, why did they? You can probably apply that to the process that you're looking to implement and then around your sales training program. And then it has to be something that will sustain behavioral change. So teaching skill set, what do you need to do? How do you record what you're doing? How often should you be doing it? Certainly is something that creates behaviors, but you sustain that by teaching them the why, by talking about the benefit of doing those things as a part of the mindset. And as we think about additional pitfalls that we haven't already talked about, one thing that I personally get a kick out of is outdated content. In fact, I sometimes look for old sales training just to get some amusement. All of you probably remember the 1980s and the 1980s. Big hair, shoulder pads, pressed wood cabinets in the background, and the chrome vertical blinds. Content today has to be relatable. They have to be using terms and phrases that today's sales reps can relate to. And no sales rep is going to scroll through a PDF to read about what they're supposed to be doing. So contemporary multimodal training is absolutely critical as you think about implementing a sales training program. And as we go to the next slide, I really want to stress the importance of the meeting of the manager and the coach roles with a single individual. As you look at your organization, you can probably point to any number of sales managers that do a really good job managing to the activity KPIs, reviewing pipeline and opportunities and reporting back on that, managing the planning, budgeting, and the territory alignment. That's the business side of being a manager, but that's the 101 piece of leading a successful sales organization. What's often missing is the human side of leading a sales organization. We call it coaching. That's where, if you think of any sport that perhaps you have an interest in, the manager moves into the role of the coach, understanding the salesperson, their needs, what motivates and encourages them to move forward. How do you instill confidence in them? How do you take the data you have as a manager and leverage that to build the salesperson from the perspective of coaching? It's absolutely critical that in any good sales process you implement, there also be strategies for developing and getting buy-in from leadership to make them good coaches as well. So let's talk about a few strategies for productivity, particularly those that are low risk and high reward, because those are the ones that we particularly gravitate to, particularly in challenged markets. And to be very clear, society has changed since I became a salesperson. When I went into sales, the focus and the drive came from commissionable events. It came from the opportunity to be recognized, the trophy, the plaque, the certificate, the recognition. The reality of it today is that trust is the new currency. If your buyers and if your sales team don't trust the organization, don't trust the product, don't trust the process won't take hold and won't drive forward the goals that you've set forth for your business. Also, values. Employees under 35 consistently rank making a difference by what they do in their career as a key driver of their satisfaction, and by virtue of that, their loyalty to and belief in their company. Alongside that, consumers often rate companies based upon their corporate values and their corporate citizenship as key drivers of buying decisions. What does the company stand for? And do I believe in that? It's also really important as we think about strategies that we invest when perhaps others are retreating. In good times, companies tend to quit focusing on those actions and those movements that develop their sales team and build the pipeline. Rather, they're inclined to ride the wave. In bad times, there's often a scramble for something, anything, that lifeboat that you can cling to drive revenue because things have slowed and there are challenges. And I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, there was a shortage of new vehicles. People were going into automotive dealerships and in many cases buying a vehicle that was a different color than they wanted, purchasing a vehicle that had fewer options than perhaps they had intended to buy, oftentimes buying a completely different model than they wanted just based upon availability, and oftentimes paying over sticker price for that. During that time, many dealerships and automotive companies weren't training their people because their vehicles were selling, they were rolling off their lot, there wasn't a lot of need to. Enter 2023, and suddenly we have a surplus of vehicles. Vehicles are sitting on the lot much longer than is profitable to those organizations. And you've got a sales team that has lost that muscle memory because we haven't been training, we haven't been working within the confines of a system, and we haven't been consistent as training and development departments. It's absolutely critical that in good times and challenge times, we stick with the process. And that process should focus on relationships over selling and partnerships over contracts. That's how we build those relationships and how we increase retention of both salespeople and clients. And then you need to look for a proven process. Again, I shared that on any single day, you probably get 5 to 10 emails about this new training process, this new system, this new gimmick or widget that you can leverage to train your sales team. It's important that any good sales program be rooted in a few things. One, we have to change the mentality that salespeople are slick. Rather, we need to help not just our clients and our organization, but also our salespeople themselves understand that sales is an honorable profession and the company needs to support them in achieving their goals and doing it in a way that is with integrity. When we think about the word challenge, I would apply it here to challenging your company's narrative that good sales training teaches salespeople to go out and quickly win a contract. Rather, that process should enable your sales team to go out and meet a client's needs, build that relationship, then come back with the contract, because that's what's going to sustain that relationship over a long period of time. And in all of this, we have to disrupt the idea that a check supersedes enabling long-term partnerships. And you've heard this from me already in this presentation, but if you want to increase client retention, if you want to increase cross-sell, upsell opportunity, and if you want to retain your salespeople, you have to do it by enabling your team to create relationships with their clients within the confines of a culture and value-driven system. We have a Fortune 100 financial services client that we partner with to serve their branch sales organization, their commercial sales organization, and their investment sales organization. We've been doing this with them for over 2 decades. And if any industry sees the most disruption from market changes, I think we can agree that at the top of the list is the financial services organizations. They have stayed with us because when the market changes, you don't change the way you train the team. You don't change the way the team sells. Some of the motions change because maybe you're talking to your clients more about their challenges on a daily basis than their next order, but that's what sustains you, positions you to survive in a challenged market, and then thrive when the market turns back to a bull market. So let's talk about confidence and trust in real terms. I refer to myself as a recovering salesperson because I have been through every training methodology I think that exists, and most of them put me in a position of not feeling good about being a salesperson. But when I found a sales training program that aligned with my core values and my style, I realized that I am a sales training professional and that sales is an honorable profession. LinkedIn did a study on B2B sales strategy, and disconcertingly, only 32% of respondents viewed sales as a trustworthy profession. 88%, not surprisingly, would only buy if they had a trusted advisor. So let's talk about how we get to the trusted advisor phase. I'm a big believer in what we call sales congruence. And let me tell you what sales congruence is because it's specific to your sales people. One, what is your sales professional's view of selling? Does your sales team view what they're doing as being noble, as being professional, and as being respected? Is it something that they're comfortable with? Absolutely critical that they do. What is their view of their abilities? Do I have the talent? Do I have the ability to be what's being asked of me? Hopefully, as training and development, you're enabling that. Values. As a salesperson, am I honest and sincere? Am I doing right by my clients and working within the value and belief system that I have that aligns with the company culture and values? Commitment to activities. Do I know what's expected of me? Do I know how to do what's expected of me? And most importantly, am I willing to do what's expected of me? Do I believe in what I'm being asked to do and believe that it will enable my success as well as my clients? And then critically, belief in product. Do I believe that what I'm selling does what we say it's going to do? Do I believe that my product brings value to our clients? Am I meeting my prospects' needs with the product that I'm bringing to market? The absence of congruence in any of those topics will lead to a sales process that will sputter at best, fail at worst. It's also important to train your team on who they're working with, their ideal client profile. What is their behavioral style? I'm a big believer in really 4 behavioral styles because it keeps it simple. And for me, simple is good. So 4 types of behavioral styles. The first is the talker. This is the high people-oriented, gregarious, high level of interaction behavioral type, but also very recognition driven. I want to talk to you. I want to be engaging. I also want to make sure that after I make this buying decision, I'm going to be recognized for the great decision that I made, which is very different than a supporter. Still people-oriented, but people-oriented to the degree that they know on the other side of the purchase, they're going to have a high level of security that what they purchased is right. So a supporter's engagement style, while they are engaging and often talkative, is really about trying to get to, do I have confidence that this product is going to deliver, and am I secure in that? The third behavioral style is the doer. Now, the doer is very results oriented. Am I going to get out of this what I think I'm going to get out of this? Is this going to drive the results that I expect it to? And on the other side of that, when I do, will I be recognized for the good work that I did in driving these results? So potentially a little less gregarious, obviously a different type of engagement for a salesperson. And then lastly, controllers. Controllers are very results oriented. So show me you know me, show me it's going to do what you say it will, but also very security driven. So a bit of a different conundrum as you're engaging with and selling to that individual, because it tends to be very rigid, it tends to be very structured, and it tends to be a very intense sale. So 4 behavioral styles that it's critical your team know how to engage with. Then training your team to drive engaging conversations. I shared earlier, we as salespeople, we love to talk. We love the sound of our own voice. We love to influence. And that's great. You should be able to communicate and engage with other humans in a way that is easy to engage with. But as you think about driving engaging conversations, you have to break it down by sales stage. So 2 stages that align, approaching and prospecting, so the initial engagement, and then the interviewing and learning. learning about what your clients' needs are, interviewing them to better understand what they do. During this phase, and this is a challenging phase for salespeople because you're listening 80% of the time and only talking 20%. So you're really listening to the client and understanding what their needs are and talking much less. Once through that phase, you move into product presentation and demonstration. This is where you're engaging with the client to show them, hey, here's what we do. Here's why I think it might fit your need. And it's a true conversation where each party is speaking about 50% of the time. This is where you're really getting to know each other. And candidly, this is where the relationship really starts to build once you've built the trust of listening to them to understanding what their needs are. Assuming the presentation and demonstrating goes well, you move into what we call validating and responding to client needs. This is where, through your product presentation and demonstration, through your interviewing, through your approach, you have learned their needs. You feel like you fully understand what they've done, and you begin to talk to them about how your product can meet their needs. I heard you say this. I believe this. And in this phase, the salesperson should be very happy because they're talking 80% of the time and looking for validation and feedback from their prospect. We move from there to negotiating and aligning. We've agreed that what I showed you is validated, it meets your needs. Let's negotiate and align on what that actually looks like. How are we going to implement? What does the contract look like? What are the terms? And in that, again, you're back to a 50-50 conversation. It's truly mutual. You're going back and forth across the table as you specifically identify what this relationship is going to look like for the long term. Assuming alignment and negotiating, you get to the really fun part, which is closing and getting the contract. In this phase, it's about 80% salesperson talking. It's in the form of reviewing everything we've discussed, how we've put it on paper, how this meets your need, repositioning the product for them to remind them why we got to this point, and then 20% listening and getting the contract to close. As you can see and imagine, in many cases, salespeople tend to dominate the conversation, and in doing so, it doesn't move forward in a natural way that makes the process comfortable and makes the prospect feel heard. So all of that being said, the sales process has to work within a holistic system. And I characterize that by the belief that the parts of something are interconnected and can be explained only by reference to the whole. And what I mean by that is sales training should holistically interconnect the sales professional's skill set and mindset. It should align with product belief, and it should work within corporate objectives, processes, values, and culture. It sounds like a process from which I would make a purchase. It sounds like a process for which I would have respect for the company that implements it. And it also sounds like a process in which I could sell or train individuals to sell because we're all rowing in the same direction. With that said, going back to our low risk, high reward strategies, to be very clear, right now, in many cases, you're not competing with your traditional competitors in the market. You're competing with no decision, delayed decision, no budget. And without a defined process, your salespeople as individuals in a given instance will decide how they're going to sell and how the conversation's going to go. And it's going to create more of a wild, wild west methodology than one that is consistent, one that is proven, and one that can be supported holistically by the entire organization. Selling with confidence within the confines of a relationship allows your team to have conversations that support their clients' and prospects' goals and understand their challenges, knowing there is full support from the company that they represent. And I can tell you as a salesperson, knowing your company stands behind you and is going to work with your client in the same way you are, deliver a product that your client will value is very meaningful. And I'll bring all of that back to mindset, skill set, equating to confidence, which is what will allow your sales team to succeed in the market and outsell their customers. With that said, look, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but what I will tell you is at some point your client will engage with your accounting and finance department, possibly their IT department, possibly your product team, most certainly your success and support team and the sales team. They need to hear and feel the same thing as they're getting from your sales organization to know that they purchased appropriately and in accordance with what they thought they were getting. And your marketing message should align with the sales process entirely. So avoid spinning, avoid challenging, rather focus on building relationships, and it has to be holistic throughout your entire organization. And as we talk about other departments, I recognize that in a market like this where companies are pulling back, budgets are being reduced, purchases are being paused, it can be a difficult conversation with your CFO when you're telling them, I need to invest in our sales team in order to drive revenue, and you're not going to see the results tomorrow, but you will over the course of the next quarter. It's important that they understand in stable markets, sales training will most certainly fuel your growth. But if you implement the right product in any market, including uncertain markets, good sales process is absolutely your lifeline to a successful outcome in your company's goal to reach their objectives in a given year. So with that said, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to chat with you today, and happy to take some questions. But I want to leave you with this thought, and this is my baseline evaluator of a sales training program. Can I implement it organizationally? Does it align with our values and goals and our sales team's values and goals? Does it develop our sales team as sales professionals rather than sales people? And at the end of the day, I know if my sales team goes home feeling good, that's less important than the fact that they're going to be excited about coming in tomorrow and doing it all again. So appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share these thoughts with you. I hope something in there brings value to you. And happy to take any questions, Haley, if any have come up and there's anything we should chat through.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brett. First question, what is your recommendation for sales process when you have both a higher volume, low dollar transactional motion and a lower volume, high dollar strategic selling motion? Separate into and enable on two separate sales motions, question mark?
Yeah, and that is a really good question because we deal with that with a lot of our clients. First of all, the process itself should be the same at its core. Values and culture alignment, consistency, able to adopt based upon the supporting technologies, leadership buy-in still being critical to that. What you're doing there is tweaking the really more the KPIs around how long do they spend in a given stage, but you still need to identify the behavioral style. You still need to follow stages. They might just be a bit shorter or slightly modified. When I implement a sales training program, it is holistic to the organization. It is identical for every sales team from the standpoint of the baseline process, modified based upon the product and the market and the way the client buys. So if someone's calling in, raising their hand saying, I want to make a purchase, that's a little different than when you have someone going out selling a higher value product with a longer sales cycle. But your process should be able to support both. If it can't, it's the wrong process, my opinion.
Absolutely. And Liz, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we might have time for two more, two really, really good ones here. One, how do you recommend organizations sustain a sense of urgency in enabling reps without creating burnout or initiative fatigue?
Yeah, well, first of all, the number one thing that creates burnout and fatigue is dealing with the unknown on a daily basis. So if your process is consistent, your sales team isn't worrying about what am I going to have to do tomorrow? What are the goals tomorrow? What are the objectives? What are my KPIs? They know it's consistent. So you take that worry off their plate, and where they will feel the sense of urgency and the sense of drive is around conducting those KPIs to successful outcomes, which is where you want them spending their time. And if you already have a process in place that is in for the long haul, you probably already have client relationships and discussions are happening in a way that allows the sales team to feel good about what they're doing, knowing they have a solid client base with which they're partnered and there's no adversarial relationship. Your bigger challenge will be if your leaders don't understand that process and haven't bought into it. And rather than creating a sense of urgency, they're creating a sense of panic and disruption. So very important that you have your leadership aligned with your sales teams in those times.
Absolutely. Last question here, Brett. And this one is a very hot topic right now, so I'm glad this was asked. With so much focus on AI and automation, how can organizations avoid losing the human element in sales conversations and development efforts?
Yeah, artificial intelligence has a lot of value, I think, in any organization. The reality of it is most people want to deal with people, and unless it's a consumer-based product, a B2C type of product, where people just want to go in and make a purchase, the Amazon world, most people making a buying decision in a B2B capacity want to be dealing with a human being, want to form that relationship, and want to see that salesperson as a resource, not as a vendor or as a system. Now, AI as a part of training can be great. There are a lot of things you can do with AI mentors, AI role play, pulling data on who on your team has their strengths and weaknesses and where. But from the standpoint of AI as the seller, unless it's more of a commoditized product, my personal belief is sales professionals have a role in it, and we won't see that role diminished. And Haley, I appreciate you tracking to the questions. Again, everyone, we're at time. I want to thank you. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Please feel free to reach out directly. I believe sales is an honorable profession. I believe it is the fastest path to a six-figure income for individuals that perhaps don't have degrees, and I'm very proud to represent the industry. Liz, I'll turn it over to you and I will go quiet.
Wow, that was like really inspirational. Like, am I taking a career path from marketing to sales? I don't know. That was really good. Thank you so much. An amazing chat. You have a lot of reaching out to do after this, so you will be busy. But thank you so much for the audience and helping us with this, making this an amazing session in the chat. And thank you so much, Brett and Haley, for making this as great as well. For all of my friends, though, we are going to take a little bit of a break before our next session that will start in the top of the hour. So up next, we do have Doug Steffen joining us from CGS Immersive for their session, 7 Ways to Use AI in Personalized Sales Enablement. Speaking of AI. So in just a moment, I am going to end this session. You can join our next session by returning to the event lobby and going to Session tab. So please stick around for our next session, which will begin in the top of the hour. See you all soon. Bye, everybody.